By the end of this session, you will be able to learn what are the colonies, and you will respond how the foreigners influence the colonies, and you will able to appreciate the role of major political parties and leaders in establishing Republic China, and you will be able to explain why young Chinese wanted to fight against the old traditional practices. Hope you are all having the textbooks with you. I request all of you to open your textbooks, turn to page number 186. What is there here? What does this map shows? That is colonies in 1914. Children, what does this year reminds us? Yes, it is the beginning of the First World War. First World War fought between 1914 and 1918. So here is a map showing that the colonies in the time of World War I. You can see in this map there are different colors showing that colonial powers. Yeah, here is a map showing the different colonial powers, that is Britain, France and Holland, representing each with one color. For example, you can see Britain is showing in light pink color, where our India is also showing the same color. That means India is a colony for Britain. So in this way, wherever this light pink color is showing, those countries were the colonies for Britain. So in the similar way, France is shown in blue color. So wherever this blue color is showing, those were the colonies for France. In the same way, light brown color which is shown in this map were the colonies for Holland. Okay, but there are some other countries which are shown in light grey color. These are the Asian and African independent countries. They were not the colonies for any colonial power. Okay, did you follow this? Okay, here I have a question for you. What are colonies? A colony is a territory under the full or partial political control of another country. So, colonization is a policy obtaining total or partial control over another country, occupying it and also exploiting economically. Let's see the process of national liberation movement. This is the name of our chapter. Let's see the meaning of this. What is a movement? First of all, what is a movement? A movement is an act of moving. What happens when movement occurs? It brings some change or development. So, the national liberation. Liberation means freedom, free. So, let's go back to Industrial Revolution. You have already learnt about Industrial Revolution in your previous classes, right from 9th class itself. So, Industrial Revolution started in England. So, what is this Industrial Revolution? Industrial Revolution, where the production of various produced in the factories. So, those countries, industrial developed countries, they need raw material. To get the raw material, they tried to occupy other countries as their colonies. For example, again we can take Britain. They took cotton from our country. They produced clothes in those factories in England. Again they have marketed worldwide. So there was a competition for the colonies. So this Industrial Revolution led to imperialism. What is imperialism? It is a policy of extending authority through colonization. Did you remember imperialism was also a cause for the First World War? There was a competition between the colonial powers to have more and more colonies. So this imperialism again led to colonization. So The people under colonization suffered a lot and they have dissatisfied with the authority and power shown by these countries, and they fed up and they wanted to fight against the colonial powers, and that fight is movements, liberation movement. They wanted to free from the colonization. They don't want to be under the colonial powers. They want to be independent of their own country. So this colonization led to liberation movements, and these movements finally achieved with independence. So this is a process where the national liberation movements took place. Let's see the condition of people in the colonies. The people under these colonies were having different kinds of people with different languages and followed different religions. Because of that, they don't have a feeling of oneness. They all belong to one country. They did not feel like that. So that is lack of nationalism. So they did not think of themselves as one nation. So there was no unity among themselves. Especially the workers, peasants, small business persons and tribal people were the real victims of this colonial rule. They fought for the freedom. And in this colonization, equality and democracy were very important to enjoy for the freedom which they were lacking, and they fought for that equality and democracy. But in those days when colonization was there, the traditional rulers were kings and emperors. They did not support the ideas of democracy and freedom. They did not care for the opinion of the people because that will be a threat for their authority. So the new movements took place in these colonies inspired by the new ideas from Europe. So in this chapter we are going to study about two countries which were suffered a lot under the colonial, and they have suffered a lot and dissatisfied with the powers. They fought for independence. First chapter, that is China. Again we'll go back to the same map in the first page. Where is China in this map? Can you show? Yes, this is the China. It is a neighboring country just above our country. In which color it is representing? It is showing in grey color. So what is grey color represents here? That is an Asian and African independent countries. That means China was not directly under colonial power but only independent in name. And there was a saying that cutting of Chinese melon. That means country China was not directly under any colonial power, but it had divided under many colonial rulers. It is about China during the 20th century. We all know that China stands first place in population wise. It was the most populous country in the world. And also it has mastered the art of agriculture. It had the good methods of agriculture, and because it has focused more on the agriculture. Okay children, let's go back to the world map again, the colonies in 1914 map. Here, where is China in this map? It is here. Yeah, in grey color. What is the grey color represents? Asian and African independent countries. That means China was not a colony directly any colonial power but independent only in name. There is a saying that cutting of the Chinese melon. That means China was under the rule of many different colonial powers. So this country we are going to study in this session. Let's see the background of China. China is our neighboring country and it is the most populous country in the world. It stands first in population wise, and it had mastered the art of agriculture. As the country was focused mainly on agriculture, there was very little industrialization. Industries were very less. And children, what is China famous for? Tea, silk, cotton and ceramic. These were the products produced in China were having great demand in the world market. But China did not allow any other countries to trade with them. They did not allow foreigners to come into their country for business purpose. They did not allow the trade relations with them. Okay, let's go into the topic, the revolution of China. In this Chinese revolution, there are two main phases. One is Manchu dynasty rule, that is from 1614 to 1911, and establishing the republic. We are going to study about these two in our chapter. Let's see. Manchu dynasty. Manchu dynasty was unsuccessful in defending the interests of China from the Western colonial powers. That means the foreigners who came, they made the emperors as puppets and they demanded for low import taxes, and also they asked to maintain their military armies. With all these things, the common people in the country as well as the administrators in the empire, they were very unhappy and they revolted against the Western powers. The Manchu Empire was overthrown in 1911 under the leadership of Sun Yat-sen. You can see the picture of Sun Yat-sen in this slide. Sun Yat-sen was regarded as the founder of modern China. He was from a very poor family and he studied medicine. When he was young, he noticed the problems of China, and based on those problems of China, he made a program of 3 principles known as San, Min and Chui. San means nationalism, Min means democracy, and Chui means socialism. Nationalism, as I already told you that when people were in colonies, there was lacking of nationalism. That means what? There was no unity among the people, no feeling of oneness among the people. So he noticed that the Chinese should be united for overthrowing the Manchu dynasty. So that is the first principle, San. Secondly, democracy. Children, what is democracy? You have already studied about democracy. Democracy is nothing but the government of the people, by the people and for the people. So it is totally people's power. So he felt that the China should have a government of people's government. So establishing democratic government was the second principle given by Sun Yat-sen. The third one, which is very important one, was Chui. Chui means socialism. Socialism means nothing but controlling the industries and land reforms. Sun Yat-sen wanted to have the government should have full power over the industries and also the land reforms. The landlord's land should be redistributed among the poor peasants. These were the major 3 principles of Sun Yat-sen. So Sun Yat-sen's legacy is in his 3 principles. So the republic government led by Sun Yat-sen was unable to come to power. It could not stay stable because soon the country was controlled by warlords and there was unstable social and political situation in China. So at this time, warlords were ruling, the era of warlords from 1916 to 1928. In the early 20th century, China was dominated by independent military commanders known as warlords. But their ruling was very disastrous, especially they imposed heavy taxes on the people to pay the taxes and this was very burden for the common people like peasants and small business people. So they fed up of this warlords era and they started revolt against the rulers. May 4th movement. In Chinese Revolution, this is the most important incident happened in the Chinese Revolution. Students protest against the decisions of Treaty of Versailles. Children, did you remember in the previous chapter when the First World War was ended, it was ended with the Treaty of Versailles. So, the victorious countries imposed penalty on the defeated countries. But actually here one interesting point is that China is on the victorious side led by Britain, but it did not get back the territories which it lost to Japan. So the demonstrators sparkled nationwide protest and spurred an upsurge in Chinese nationalism. This movement is a shift towards political mobilization. And this May 4th movement was also an anti-imperialist, cultural and political movement which grew out of student protests in Beijing on 4th May 1919. So it was a shift away from cultural and activities and moved towards mass base. This is a movement which led to many radical political and social leaders of the next 5 decades emerged at this time. In this movement, the students and also the generations of that time, they wanted to reform the China and they have advocated some reforms. Reforms means changes they wanted to have in their country. Let's see what are they. First one, people together attack the old traditions for saving China through modern science, democracy and nationalism. These are the main things students and young generation of China wanted to get in their country. And they also wanted foreigners to leave the country because they are capturing and they are occupying and exploiting their resources. And they also wanted and demanded for equality in marriage and end poverty. Not only these things, they wanted to have a simple language and script. You all know Chinese language is very difficult for writing and also for reading. So it was a very difficult script they used to have. So the young generation, they wanted to simplify this language and script. Not only that, at that time, the women were not treated as equally with men. So they want to abolish the subordination of women and practice of foot binding. What is foot binding? That is nothing but a cruel practice of not having fully grown feet of women. You can see in this slide there is this picture like this. Their leg was tied to a shoe so that their foot will not grow fully. This is an practice at those times women were having. So they wanted a society based on democratic government, liberalism and science and industry. Here in this slide you can see a poster from later period saying that destroy the old world and build a new world. That means these young generation of China at that time, they want to destroy all the old traditions and they want to bring a new world into their country. After this revolution, there were 2 major political parties were emerged. You can see in this slide, they are Kuomintang and Chinese Communist Party. You can see the symbols of these parties. Both these parties wanted to unite the country and bring stability into their country. The Kuomintang Party, which is also known as the National People's Party and also known as Kuomintang, followed the principles and philosophy based on Sun Yat-sen's ideas. We have seen in previous the three principles of Sun Yat-sen, San, Min, Chui. So based on those three principles, this party was formed, and they also identified the four great needs such as clothing, food, shelter and transportation. After the death of Sun Yat-sen, Chiang Kai-shek, he emerged as the new leader of Kuomintang party. He launched a military campaign to control the warlords. Who were warlords? They were the military leaders who forcefully taken the power and authority. Also wanted to militarize the whole nation. And he said that the people must develop a habit of instinct for unified behavior. The Kuomintang's party's social base was in urban areas of China. Urban means towns and cities. So they completely concentrated on the cities and towns, and they wanted industrial growth, but it was very slow and limited. By 1919, an industrial working class of around 5 lakh people had appeared in the cities like Shanghai. You can see the picture of Shanghai at that time. Even today, Shanghai is the very busiest city in the world. These cities later became the center of modern growth in China. But very small percentage of employees in modern industries were working, like in shipbuilding industry. Most were petty urbanites. These petty urbanites were also known as Xiao Shimen. Repeat it again, Xiao Shimen. That means middle class working people, like traders and shopkeepers. Urban workers, especially women, they earned very low wages. Wages means salaries. The workers, they used to get very low salary, but they need to work for long hours. They were very long period of working, and the working conditions were also very bad. At that time, as the ideas of nationalism, democracy were growing, many schools and universities were established in the social and cultural change. During this period only, the Peking University was established in 1902. And journalism was also reflecting the growing attraction of this new thinking of democracy, liberalism and socialism. We have seen after Sun Yat-sen, Chiang Kai-shek became the leader of this party. But Chiang was a conservative. Conservative means holding to traditional values. He encouraged women to have 4 virtues. Virtues means behavior of moral standards. So, what are those 4 virtues? Chastity, appearance, speech and work. Chastity means purity of conduct, and appearance, speech and work. These are the 4 virtues were given by Chiang Kai-shek, and he recognized their role as confined to household. He also tried to suppress the trade unions movements. What were trade unions? The workers' associations. Any problems facing by workers, these unions will demand the management to solve the problems. But he tried to suppress these trade unions to encourage the factory owners. The Kuomintang party failed to unite the country because of its narrow social base. The party ignored peasantry. It has totally concentrated on militarization and also industry growth. But they ignored the peasantry and tried to impose military order. It imposed military orders rather than addressing the problems of the people. The Sun Yat-sen's principles, the basic principles on which this party was formed, they were never carried out by this government, and that was finally it was a failure of this party. Okay children, In this session, we are going to have an activity. Okay, students, in this session, there is an activity for you. In the first page itself, the colonies of 1914 map was given. Just above that map, some questions were given for you. Identify the colonial countries representing the color. So, with the help of the modern world map, you need to complete this activity. In this session, relating to this session, here are some questions important given for you. You need to learn. First question, in colonies, which social groups have fought for freedom? We have discussed about colonialism. Under colonies, common people like peasants, small workers, these people suffered a lot under colonialism. So, you need to find out which social group were fought for the freedom and why were the ideas of equality and democracy important for them. Why did they feel to get the equality and freedom? Okay. Second question, why do you think young Chinese wanted to fight both old traditions and against the foreign powers? We have seen there were some practices which are very difficult for the Chinese to follow in those days. So, all those old practices were very difficult. They wanted to change a new methods of writing, script, all those things. So, like that, why they wanted to fight the old practices, traditional practices, and fight against the foreign powers. Thirdly, what were the major political parties that emerged during the period of revolution in China? We have seen two major political parties have emerged during the revolution. Those are Kuomintang and Chinese Communist Party. For better understanding of the concepts, solve the worksheet.